parking ticket. That's it. In 1977, one small yellow slip of paper brought down America's most notorious serial killer. David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, had terrorized New York City for over a year. 6 people dead, 7 wounded. 8 million residents afraid to go out after dark. The NYPD had thrown everything at this case. 200 detectives, psychological profiles, citywide stakeouts. They'd followed thousands of leads, interrogated hundreds of suspects, and spent millions of dollars. But in the end, it wasn't brilliant detective work that caught him. It wasn't a witness or DNA evidence. It was a $35 parking ticket that Berkowitz forgot to pay after shooting 2 teenagers in Brooklyn. This isn't the only time a serial killer's downfall came from something ridiculously simple. Today, we're diving into the most absurd, unbelievable mistakes that brought down history's most dangerous predators. Mistakes so stupid, you'll wonder how these people managed to kill anyone at all. Let's start with Berkowitz, because his story perfectly shows how even the most careful killers can be undone by the mundane. For 13 months, the son of Sam had been meticulous. He chose random victims, used the same .44 caliber gun, left cryptic letters taunting police, and never struck the same area twice. The city was paralyzed with fear. On July 31st, 1977, Berkowitz drove to Brooklyn for what would be his final attack. He parked his yellow Ford Galaxy on a quiet street and walked several blocks to find his victims. At 2:20 a.m., he shot Stacy Moskowitz and Robert Violante as they sat in their car. Moskowitz died. Violante survived but was blinded. But here's where it gets weird. As Berkowitz walked back to his car, he noticed something tucked under his windshield wiper. A parking ticket. He'd parked too close to a fire hydrant. Most people would just pay the fine and move on. Not Berkowitz. He actually went to court to contest it, creating a paper trail that led straight to his door. When police finally connected the dots weeks later, they had his name, address, and license plate number. Game over. The man who'd outsmarted the NYPD for over a year was brought down by his refusal to pay $35. But Berkowitz looks like a genius compared to Dennis Rader, the BTK killer. Rader managed to stay hidden for 30 years. 30 years. He killed 10 people between 1974 and 1991, then went completely silent. Police thought he was dead. The case went cold. Then in 2004, Rader's ego got the better of him. He started sending letters to the media again, desperate for attention. But technology had changed since the 1970s. In one letter, he asked police if they could trace a computer floppy disk. The detective wrote back in a newspaper ad saying no, they couldn't trace it. Rader believed them. He sent a floppy disk to a TV station. What he didn't know was that the detective had lied. Within hours, forensic analysts found deleted metadata on the disk. It contained the name Dennis and linked to Christ Lutheran Church in Wichita. A quick Google search revealed Dennis Rader was the church council president. You have to understand, this man had evaded capture for 3 decades. He'd killed children, terrorized families, and taunted police with impunity. And he threw it all away because he trusted a cop's promise in a newspaper ad. Then there's Joel Rifkin, who might hold the record for the dumbest serial killer mistake ever. In 1993, Rifkin was driving through Long Island with a decomposing body in his truck bed. The smell was so bad that he had to drive with the windows down in winter. But instead of disposing of the body immediately, he decided to make a quick stop at the library. Yes, you heard that right. Joel Rifkin, with a rotting corpse in his truck, decided he needed to return some overdue books. The librarian later said the smell was so overwhelming that she had to step outside for fresh air. But it gets worse. Rifkin's truck didn't have a license plate, so when police spotted him leaving the library, they tried to pull him over for a routine traffic stop. Rifkin panicked and led police on a high-speed chase through suburban neighborhoods. The pursuit ended when he crashed into a telephone pole. When officers approached the wreckage, the smell hit them immediately. They found the body of Tiffany Bresciani, a 22-year-old sex worker who'd been missing for 3 days. During questioning, Rifkin confessed to killing 17 women over 4 years, all because he couldn't stand having overdue library books. The late fees would have been maybe $20. Instead, he got life in prison. But modern technology has created entirely new ways for killers to expose themselves. In 2019, Brian Kloss thought he was being clever when he created a fake Facebook profile to monitor news about his own crimes. He'd kidnapped 13-year-old James Kloss after murdering her parents in Wisconsin. For 88 days, he held her captive in a remote cabin. Kloss created a Facebook account under the name Jake Patterson and started following news coverage of the case. He even sent friend requests to James' relatives, apparently wanting to see their private posts about the investigation. But Facebook's algorithms detected suspicious activity. The account was flagged for sending multiple friend requests to people with no mutual connections. When investigators traced the account, they found it had been created from the same IP address as several online searches about the Kloss family. The digital trail led them straight to Kloss's cabin. Jamie escaped the same day they identified him, but by then, police already had his location. The man who'd managed to evade a massive manhunt for nearly 3 months was caught because he couldn't resist liking Facebook posts about his own crimes. Sometimes the mistake isn't what killers do, it's what they keep. Jeffrey Dahmer managed to kill 17 people over 13 years, but his downfall came from his obsession with documentation. When police finally entered his apartment in 1991, they found a house of horrors. But among the body parts and acid vats, they also found Dahmer's personal collection of Polaroid photos. Dahmer had photographed his victims at every stage of his crimes. He had pictures of them alive, dead, and in various states of dismemberment. He'd organized them in photo albums like vacation pictures. There were hundreds of images, each one carefully labeled with dates and details. But here's the thing, if Dahmer had just disposed of the photos, police would have had a much harder time proving his crimes. Instead, he'd created a perfect catalog of evidence. When his final victim, Konorak Synthesomphone, escaped and flagged down police, they found this photographic confession waiting for them. Dahmer later told psychiatrists that he kept the photos because he wanted to remember each victim. His need for souvenirs became the prosecution's smoking gun. Technology has also made it easier for killers to accidentally incriminate themselves. Israel Keyes was considered one of the most methodical serial killers ever. He buried kill kits containing weapons and supplies across the country, waited years between murders, and chose victims completely at random to avoid patterns. But in 2012, Keyes made a critical error. After killing Samantha Koenig in Alaska, he used her debit card to withdraw money from ATMs. The problem wasn't just that he used her card, it was that he used it in multiple states while driving to visit his girlfriend in Texas. The ATM withdrawals created a perfect GPS trail of his movements. Security cameras at each location confirmed it was the same person. Within days, FBI agents had mapped his entire route and identified his car. They arrested him at the last ATM location, where he'd just withdrawn another $400. Keyes had spent years perfecting his methods, but he couldn't resist the convenience of using a victim's debit card for gas money. That laziness cost him his freedom and eventually his life. Here's what's truly chilling about these stories. These weren't random acts of violence by unhinged individuals. These were calculated predators who planned their crimes meticulously. Berkowitz studied police patterns. Rader researched his victims for months. Dahmer perfected his methods over 13 years. Yet they were all brought down by mistakes so basic, so fundamentally stupid, that it reveals something profound about human nature. Even the most careful criminals are still human. They get lazy, they get cocky, they get sentimental. They want recognition, they crave convenience, they make assumptions. The same psychological flaws that drive them to kill are the same ones that eventually expose them. But here's the really unsettling part. These cases only represent the killers who got caught. How many others are out there right now, smart enough to avoid these obvious mistakes? How many have learned from these failures and adapted their methods? The FBI estimates there are 25 to 50 active serial killers in the United States at any given time. Most will never become household names like Bundy or Dahmer. They'll kill quietly, dispose of evidence properly, and fade back into society. The ones we remember are often the ones who screwed up. In the end, we should be grateful that evil is often accompanied by stupidity. A parking ticket, a library card, a Facebook friend request, Sometimes the smallest threads unravel the darkest crimes. These killers thought they were smarter than everyone else. Turns out they couldn't even outsmart a yellow piece of paper tucked under a windshield wiper. What other genius criminals do you think were brought down by their own stupidity? Let me know in the comments below, and if you want more stories about history's biggest failures, make sure to subscribe.